Radio Prudhoe.
3 minutes past 11 on this Saturday morning. It's mine and Rory's final show on air. Don't celebrate too soon. We've only got 57 minutes left, but it's a packed 57 minutes, isn't it?
Oh, packed, yes. I mean, we've got quite a lot to cram in, and I think it's going to fly.
Like that pizza box in the bag.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you listened in hour one, you will have just lolled.
I'm sure many people just have.
I bet. That woman was when she saw it happen, but we'll not go into that again.
Now, the last time we played David versus Rory, you got 5 out of 5, didn't you?
I did, and it was entirely luck, and there was no skill involved, but yes, I will take that. I did have a perfect score.
And I got an embarrassing 3.
Embarrassing.
And, you know, mentally I'm still trying to overcome that.
You've cried yourself to sleep every night in the past 2 weeks, haven't you?
Well, I have actually, yeah. So there's a lot of pressure on me today because I don't think I've ever lost every edition of it in a single run.
Wow.
I haven't got a very good record for actually winning it, but to lose every possible instalment, we don't want to end the run on that kind of note, do we?
Well, you don't want to end the run on that kind of note. I'd be quite pleased with that. But
imagine if you got 5 out of 5 again as well. I mean, I can't have that.
You would think I'd been fiddling your notes, wouldn't you? You'd think I'd been stealing them when you were at the toilet or something. I promise I haven't been.
Foul play in the Radio Prudhoe studio here.
Possibly. Well, we'll be kicking off our first round of that after we hear this first song, and it wasn't my choice, but it's a darn good one.
Yes, well, of course, we're pretty much in the middle of our show this morning.
I know where he's going.
So
get ready for
what
this.
What better track to play than Middle of the Night by the Vamps.
Amazing.
Middle of the Night by the Vamps.
Yes, and what a brilliant link into that track. I'm sure you'll agree. It's time for... Yes, David versus Rory. What a treat. And the sound effects start here, folks. This is the point of the show you want to listen between now and 12. We're going to be asking each other, telling each other really 5 statements each over the next 50-odd minutes, and some of them are true, some of them are false. The rules of the game aren't difficult. It is simply whoever correctly identifies whether they're true or false by the end of the 5 rounds wins. It's not difficult to understand, that is it?
No, it's not. That fanfare, I mean, that, provokes excitement for some people, including yourself and the many listeners, but probably sends a shiver down the spine of others, including myself, because I know that the pressure is now on, and I have to, pull something out of the bag here.
Well, I didn't know that it unnerved you. I wouldn't have played it. Oh dear, it's happened. It's somehow happened again.
I have nightmares about a funfair.
My goodness, it's unnerved you for a second time. My sincere apologies. Who wants to go first? Should I give you a statement first for you to guess, or vice versa? What would you like? I'll let you choose.
Well, I'll tell you what, as defending champion, why don't you kick us off today?
Well, I've got a great one to start with. Get ready for this.
Well, I can't wait.
Bananas are poisonous to squirrels.
Ooh. It sounds plausible. Again, it's an animal theme that kicks off again today.
It is.
Will that be a sign of things to come? You'll just have to wait and find out. But we did like our animals last time, didn't we?
We did like our animals.
Now, it sounds perfectly plausible. The one, people talk about how chocolate's poisonous to dogs, for example.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you've perhaps changed the animal around to throw me off course, and perhaps it's poisonous to something that isn't a squirrel.
Do you know what? Because I'm so fiendish, it might all be a lie. It might be the thing and the animal might be a lie. Be. Because some things are poisonous to others, so I could have just made anything up. I'm that horrible. What do you think?
Well, exactly. I mean, playing that fanfare before, that just shows how horrible you can be.
I
playing
am
it twice.
Terrible. Twice.
Just to, unsettle me.
Yeah. How unsettled you.
Not very nice tactics there. Yeah. Now, although it wouldn't surprise me if this was true, I'm going to say that you've just tweaked this somehow, and I think it's false.
You've thought about that in great depth. So even though you think it's right, you've gone for false.
Well, I maybe not think it's right, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's right. But I'm going for false.
You've gone for false.
Oh,
well done. I made that up completely. I've never seen a squirrel eating a banana, so I thought that'll do. I did find out, though, that there is a case of a bird being poisonous to something similar-ish to a banana. Would you like to have a guess? No additional points.
The bird is poisonous to the banana?
No. Something is poisonous to a bird. What do you reckon?
To a bird?
Yes. Well, to birds.
Any bird?
All birds.
All birds?
All birds find this foodstuff poisonous.
Oh, honey.
No, it's avocados.
Oh, right.
You're listening to Radio Prudhoe. Right, let's. It's my turn now. Come on. I can't wait for this. What's the score so far? You got that right.
Well,
so it's 1-0.
1-0. 1-0. I should enjoy this whilst I can.
You should, yes. Let's hope that nothing unnerves you over the next few seconds.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to storm out the studio in a second.
Wow.
Okay.
Don't do that because you'd effectively win by default at 1-0 there.
That's
so don't
a good idea.
Out.
You're giving me ideas. Well, if only we had a slam door sound effect to come into play there with me.
There you are.
Yeah.
That'll do. Done live, that's the quality of this show.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway, I'll not keep you hanging on any longer.
I am hanging, let's go.
In Ukraine, citizens have to select baby names from a list of 1,000 government-approved names.
Right, well... Now, you see, I get rather like your comments about my squirrel bananas. I think that this does ring true, but I think the idea of a state having a list of pre-approved names might be more suited to somewhere like North Korea than Ukraine. I think Ukraine's a little bit... I don't know how to put that. I don't think Ukraine is quite as dictatorial as somewhere like North Korea. I don't think the government would try to stop you from calling your child a certain name. Again, massively plausible. I just think that it's almost certainly true in part, but I don't think it's Ukraine, so I'm going to say that is false. They do not force you to call your child a pre-approved name in Ukraine.
Well, interesting logic, and it's resulted in you getting the correct answer.
Oh my goodness.
I was banking on you not being able to think of more than 1,000 Ukrainian names.
Well, I can think of 1,012.
Oh, so there you go.
You look like a fool now, don't you?
Well, I can tell you that you were kind of on the right lines in terms of what I'd done to that statement.
Okay, good.
To make it false. But it might surprise you to know that it wasn't North Korea I took inspiration from. It was actually Denmark, somewhere where you might think of being far more... I don't know, liberal in anywhere really.
Yeah, Denmark.
Although it's not quite 1,000 names, it's actually 7,000, but there are 7,000 government approved names in Denmark.
Wow.
From which you must select the name of your child.
And what would happen if, for example, someone came out and went, let's call it Plonker? That's not on the list. Would they say, no, you've got an illegal infant? Or would they... I mean, what are the penalties if you attempt to call a child by an unapproved name?
Well, on this occasion, my research didn't go that far down the line, unfortunately.
He's phoning it in.
But
half a fact.
I imagine you have to register the birth, don't you? So you have to go along to some kind of government-approved building or office to say this is
little Plonker.
This is Niklas Jensen or something like that. And if you try to call it something different,
right?
They might say, well, sorry, we're just not going to register.
My goodness me.
Not allow it. But I guess it's been that way for so long now that the tradition is embedded in Danish culture, so nobody bats an eyelid about it.
In fairness.
But I can't think of more than 7,000 Danish names anyway.
I was just about to say, in fairness, you'd be hard pushed to think of more than 7,000. If they said you've got to call your child one of 10 names, and it was like Jack, Tom, Peter, David, Rory. How did I think of the last two? And then 5 female names. You'd sort of think you're taking the mick a bit now, Denmark. But 7,000. I think they've got it covered in 7,000.
Plenty of scope there, really, isn't it? So that means it's 1-1 after our first round.
What a high-scoring affair this has been. 1-1. We'll be straight back with round 2 after we hear from Louisa Johnson.
Live from Fuse Media Centre, this is Radio Prudhoe.
Right, we just played you Shine by Years and Years, and something we hope will continue to go on for years and years, as I'm sure you do too, is our David versus Rory challenge. But I'm afraid for this run, it's all coming to an end in the next 40 minutes or so. But still,
it is
lots to look forward to.
But we are only 20% of the way through today, so it's by no means over. And I went first to give you a statement last time, at the end of which round we ended 1-1, by the way. So it's you to give me your statement first.
Okie doke. Well, here we are. I mean, you might notice there's a little bit of a theme emerging with some of my questions today. Well, statements.
Is it Ukraine?
It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not Ukraine.
Oh, I went on ukrainefacts.com last night for nothing.
It's a good website.
It is.
I'm sure you found a lot on there to keep you entertained.
Oh, I did.
In any case. Right, not Ukraine, but Ethiopia. follows a calendar.
I missed EthiopiaFacts.com. I went for Malawi. I can't believe it. What an oversight.
What are the chances? Well, Ethiopia follows a calendar that is more than 200 years behind the rest of the world.
Right. Now this puts me in mind of the Mayans with their doomsday clock almost. They were the ones who had a calendar that ended in 2012, and people/fools thought that the world was going to end because this calendar ended. They didn't think, however, that we have a calendar that ends every 12 months and we just buy another one. It doesn't mean the world's going to end. Morons. But it does make me think of the Mayan calendar. You see, the problem with this game is you can't take anything with a pinch of salt. You've got to pick apart all the details of everything.
That's what makes it so exciting. Exciting to be a part of and exciting to listen to, of course, as well.
Well, I imagine people are scintillated. That is true. But I think, there's so many things you could have changed here. I'm going to say it is false. It's not Ethiopia, but I'm very sure that there is some country, culture or something that does use an arcane old-fashioned calendar that we would not recognise, but I don't think it's Ethiopia. False.
Right, well, you are correct.
Oh my goodness me. Now that, I'm quite surprised about that. I thought I might come back to bite us, but I'm chuffed with that.
It's decent logic again, but a little bit like the last question, you're half right in terms of you've realised why it's wrong because I've changed something.
But it's not.
It's not Ethiopia. It's actually the amount of years. They're not more than 200 behind, but they are 7 behind. So
that's not as impressive, is it?
It's nowhere near as grand a statement as originally posed here. It's based on their alternative calculations on when Jesus Christ was born.
Okay, so what? So to them, it's 2010.
Yes. So when they essentially celebrated the last millennium in.
It was 10 years ago in 2007.
Yes.
Oh, right.
So
do they follow the same calendar in terms of they still have 12 months, it still takes 365 days, they still add a leap year every 4 years, or are their years shorter or something? Or, I mean, do you know any more details? Or
again, you'll be sad. No, I didn't quite go into that amount of detail. Sorry, David. Sorry, listeners as well. I'm really, really sorry.
Everyone's
really
crying out to know how long an Ethiopian year is, and you fail to provide the details.
Well, that definitely is an oversight on my part. I'm really,
can't believe
truly sorry. However, all I know is that they are 7 years behind.
Okay.
But I would assume, and I might be wrong, if I am indeed wrong, then get in touch and tell her. But I would assume they do follow a 12-month leap year, etc., pattern.
Okay,
I would assume so.
Any Ethiopians listening, get in touch. We'll be inundated with those comments. Now, from Ethiopia to Montana. The largest ever recorded snowflake was in Montana in 1887 and was, get this, 15 inches wide.
15 inches wide.
15 inches. Now, again, this doesn't work on radio, but that must be, about that? Quite long.
Yeah, it's about
the width of the computer screen we're looking at. That's quite a size.
I was just about to say, yeah. So, and they're obviously quite circular things, aren't they? So that's essentially a
spherical 15-inch
diameter.
Yes.
Now, again, a little bit like you, I'm looking at what you could potentially have changed here. But so we have Montana. You could have changed that. You have the year. You could easily have changed that.
I could,
and obviously the size of the snowflake. However, it sounds plausible enough, but not stupid enough to be correct.
But of course, that would be the hallmark of a brilliant lie.
It would be, but I'm going to gamble and say that I actually think this is true. I don't think you've changed anything yet.
Well, we haven't heard the wrong answer sound effect yet. And we're not going to either. Absolutely true. I have no supplementary information because everything I told you was correct. The largest recorded snowflake was in Montana. Over 100 odd years ago, the Ethiopians would call it 1880. We're calling it 1887. And it was 15 inches wide.
I wonder how big some of the unrecorded snowflakes have been over the years.
Exactly.
Just imagine, 2,000 years ago or whatever.
If that bloke from the Guinness Book of World Records 1887 hadn't been there, that would have gone unrecorded.
I know.
My goodness.
Well, wasn't that lucky?
I wonder how he got his tape measure around it as well, as it was falling from the...
You'd have to be very careful because if you could damage it quite easily.
You could do. It's essentially slightly cold water. and you can't really measure that very well.
No.
While it's moving as well. I don't know how on earth they got that fact, but it's allegedly correct. What are the scores, Rory?
Well, that's a 100% record for both of us so far.
Wow.
2-2.
This really is scintillating to listen to, as is Anne-Marie with Ciao Adios.
Radio Prudhoe.
That was a look at your news and weather at 11:33, and right on with our David versus Rory. What are the scores on the doors so far?
Well, after 2 questions each, it's currently 2-2. A 100% record.
We're not doing too badly at all today, are we?
No, in fact, I mean, obviously we don't want to speak too soon, but both clashes so far have been quite high scoring, really. I mean,
well, as high scoring as possible.
Well, you've
100%.
You've actually not got a question wrong in this entire run.
I haven't, but let's not speak too soon. I've got 3 to go.
But even I, unbelievably, have only got 2 wrong.
That's
I mean, it's time for it to all unravel yet, of course, but
there is. Well, I'm afraid it's your turn to be probed first, and this is a treat. And you did mention animals before. Mm-hmm. Here we are. Southern sea otters, not the northern ones.
Right.
Southern sea otters have flaps of skin under their legs that they can use as pockets. When diving, they can use these pouches to store things that they might want later, for example, rocks or food. Could that be true, or is it lies?
So just remind me where the... What was it? Flaps of...
Under their legs.
Under their legs.
Southern sea otters have flaps of skin under their legs. Essentially, they stick stuff in the flaps of skin. Could that be true?
And the transport rocks, did you say?
Well,
what would they be doing transporting rocks?
Well, he can transport rocks if he likes, or food. He can stick a Twix in there. Whatever he wants to put in there. The overall fact is there's flaps going on, and you can put things in them and act as pockets.
Right.
It makes absolute sense.
Very interesting, if true. I mean, it's the kind of thing, as we've alluded to in the past, you could, hear David Attenborough narrating something, along these lines on one of his shows.
And here we see a southern sea otter with a Twix in his leg flap.
A leg flap, is that
leg
the actual...
Flap. I don't think... Well, they have flaps of skin under their legs, so leg flap seem to be about as accurate as possible.
Flaps of skin.
Well, you could say folds of skin if you'd rather.
Folds of skin.
If you don't enjoy...
Under their legs.
Under their legs.
But it's not on the paws? Don't others have paws? Don't others even have legs? They do have legs.
Do they have flaps is the question.
Well,
what do
yeah.
you reckon?
Is there such a thing as a southern sea otter?
The questions.
Part of me wants it to be true, but because there's so much involved here, I just have a feeling something might have changed somewhere. It might be something fairly subtle, like, it is actually the northern sea otters, whatever the difference is.
That would be harsh if that was all that changed.
I don't know, maybe they do have flaps, but maybe they're in a different part of their body. I don't know, but there's just something...
Something makes you uneasy about the idea of a sea otter having flaps full of rocks and food.
Much like the fanfare noise, it does. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is true, but I'm going to say false.
You're going to say false?
Yes. Oh, well.
The southern sea otter does have a flap of skin under their legs that they can use as pockets. They can use them to store whatever they wish. The example given was rocks and food.
Rocks.
I don't know what a sea otter's swimming with a rock for. Who knows? Maybe it's their equivalent of a phone. He leaves his house and he goes, have I got me food? Have I got me rocks? Yes, I'll be back later, Doreen.
Well, fair play to the otter for doing that, because it must be a bit of a task in itself to actually pick up the rock and put it into this flap in the first place.
I don't think we're talking about boulders. I think we're talking about pebbles. I don't think we're talking about, like, the thing that chased Indiana Jones down the hill. They're not cramming that in there.
But
they're just...
I mean, do they pick it up with the mouth and then just chuck it beneath the legs, or do they pick it up with the paws? So you didn't...
no idea.
Right, so you didn't do any further research on the otter flap?
No, I didn't. I didn't do any further research on the otter, his flaps, or his food. But that is true, and that is bad news for you, because you thought it was false, so it's still 2-2 here.
Well, yes. Well, here's a treat for you. Okie doke. You've heard of the expression raining cats and dogs?
Yeah.
Well,
raining sea otter?
In the Honduran city of Yoro, there is an annual phenomenon called the rain of fish, where hundreds of small fish rain from the sky into the streets below.
Right. This, I mean, meteorologically, I mean, it makes no sense at all. But, and you've got a geography degree, and thus know a little bit about, well, a lot about, I would imagine, the sort of weather systems and things like this. It's almost as if I can't believe you would put together such an implausible fact out of the blue. I can't imagine that you would come up with fish coming down from the skies out of nowhere. That doesn't make it doesn't make sense. You wouldn't come up with that because it doesn't sound like it makes sense. So I'm almost thinking in the same kind of double bluff way that you thought about the bananas and squirrels earlier, and that's not a sentence you get to say very often. I think, even though it sounds stupid, I'm going to say true. It's implausible, but true.
Well, you seem to have, your logic nailed, because it is true, yes.
Oh, I do like that noise.
Yes, that's 8 out of 8 for the run so far.
That's not bad, that, is it?
But yes, that is actually a thing. And there is some kind of fancy title for it in Spanish, and I think the locals have a bit of a festival to mark the occasion. But it can occur, it has been known to occur twice a year, but certainly at least once a year in the Honduran city of Yoro. So if you're ever passing through and you're lucky enough to pass through at this time of year, look out for small silver fish falling from the sky.
Wow.
And it's all because of the wet season and being in a particularly wet part of Honduras. And you see these small, I mean, they are just small fish. They're not, massive,
Small enough to fit in an otter's flap of skin?
Probably. You could probably fit a few of them in,
wow.
to be honest.
They are small.
But they all do get caught up within the, water travelling up to the sky and whatever and all the rest of it. And it's been happening for a long time.
That's very odd.
It's the rain of fish. Wow. There you are.
Well, the score then is 3 to me, 2 to you. There are 2 more statements left, you'll be pleased to know. So anyone could still win or lose this, or in fact a draw. Who knows? We've ended on a draw before. We'll have to see what happens. For now, let's take you to Little Mix and No More Sad Songs.
That was Little Mix with No More Sad Songs, but I have a feeling there'll be a lot more sad songs if I continue to perform so poorly in David vs. Rory.
To find out more about free courses in functional maths or functional English, call 01661 836 215 or email learning@radioprada.co.uk.
What a very nice link into part 4 of David vs. Rory. Very good. I mean, anyone could still win or lose at this stage. It is currently 3-2 to me. We'll see what happens. It's your turn to give me your statement first.
It is, yes. Now, remember, if you get this right, that will mean there's no chance I can win today. It'll also take your tally for the run to 9 out of 9, which will be very, very impressive.
That would be. I'd be quite pleased with that. I've never managed that before. Let's see if we can do it. This is where I'll ruin it, though. I'll get it wrong now you've said that.
Now, continuing our little jaunt around the world, it is illegal to take chewing gum into Singapore. You are, however, allowed to chew nicotine gum or dental gum. But anything of the more commercial variety, you can't take that in. It is illegal.
Okay, well, you see, now, if you look at our streets, quite often they're covered in horrible bits of old chewing gum. So I can understand the rationale behind banning chewing gum. But is it Singapore? Is the question. And nicotine gum, I don't see how that stops the problem. If you don't want gum to be lying everywhere, you don't say, well, some gum's alright. So, I'm in a bit of a quandary. I'm going to say, again, Singapore's quite an odd place to come up with off the cuff. I'm going to say that is true. But I don't know why they'd allow nicotine gum. But let's say true.
You're going to go for true. What prompted you to say true, Evan? Because I thought you were leaning towards false there.
Because I get the fact that they don't want chewing gum to be all over the place and sticky and looking a bit horrible, and I don't think you'd have come up with Singapore out of the blue. So, on balance, true.
Oh, he's a tease, isn't he? He's correct again.
Oh, look at it.
I really
did
did think you were leaning towards saying false there. But no, you've got it right again.
I can't believe
they do have some quite strict laws in terms of, hygiene and public welfare and things like that. You're legally required to flush a toilet when you use it in Singapore as well.
Well, it is standard etiquette, but it isn't a legality in this country, is it? Well, there you have it. If you ever go to Singapore, Don't be chewing gum in a toilet, you'll get done on 2 counts.
Mm-hmm. And
now,
you'll not be coming back.
No, indeed not. Now, we're going to 14th century France now. This is a slightly grisly one if it's true. A pig in France in 1336 was executed by public hanging. Why would they bother doing that? Do you think it's true?
Right. Well, first of all, coming to mind here is the famous Hartlepool tale, where they hung a monkey.
They did indeed,
on the
yes.
beach
I thought it was a spy.
They thought he was a French spy.
Mm-hmm.
And although it might have been a little bit later down the line than that, I think that's perhaps where you've taken inspiration from for this. So I'm going to say, almost as confident as I can be, although that's probably famous last words, I think that's false.
You think it's false? Oh dear.
Unbelievable.
I'm afraid you were false in your assumption that it was false.
I dived in there.
In 1336, a pig in France was executed by public hanging. Now, you see, the pig killed a child, but a pig doesn't know what it's doing. So these days, that would not work. But they did. They actually hung a pig in France.
Was it like a wild boar type pig?
I don't know the details of the pig, but I'm afraid to say that is actually what they did. The police sanctioned that, and that happened publicly in 1336.
Well, there you are.
What are the scores, need I ask?
Well, it's actually 4-2 to you, which essentially invalidates our final round.
Well, don't say that, because everyone will turn off. So it'll be gripping for the whole thing.
Well, just to see whether you actually continue this 100% record to the very end. How cruel it would be if you were to stumble at the final hurdle.
I'll tell you what, this may be a good song for you next, and it's something that you might end up saying. I can't go on. Well, that was... no, it wasn't. What's his name? Robin Bengtsson, not Martin Bengtsson. I'm thinking of Martin Jensen with I Can't Go On. And
Scandinavian names.
They are.
That relates to one of our...
At least there's only 7,000 of them to get mixed up with. Now, it is 9 minutes to midday. Only 9 minutes left of us this morning, and time for the final round of David versus Rory. It is me to give you my fact for you first, so let's go. In 2014, someone tried to sell Buckingham Palace on an estate agency website. The site took it down after a member of staff from the palace saw the advert and wrote a letter declaring the listing to be fraudulent. What a way to end.
Well, it's quite possible that the Queen was just, fancying, winding
downsize them?
Well, possibly, or just fancied playing a bit of a practical joke.
Okay.
Maybe she was a bit bored. The weather hadn't been very nice. She hadn't been able to get out.
I think the idea is it was someone's idea of a practical joke. They were nothing to do with the palace at all.
I get what you mean. I was just, considering whether, for a moment, as you have to with this game, all possibilities, and whether the Queen had played a bit of a joke. It sounds like something that you should never be able to get away with, but it's quite possible that somebody did. Then again, is it Buckingham Palace, or have you changed it to from a different location, maybe the Tower of London or something? I don't know. Could be anything.
Well, it could.
I think the concept is true. I'm just not convinced the building is true. So I'm going to say false.
Oh, you've really thought about that, haven't you? Is it false? It is indeed false, and you are absolutely right. There is something like this that did take place, but it wasn't Buckingham Palace, nor was it in 2014, and all of the stuff about the member of staff of the palace getting in touch were utter lies. I made that up completely. I will tell you, though, in 2006, someone tried to sell the entire of New Zealand on eBay.
All right.
And the price got up to $3,000, so about 2,500, before eBay shut it down. There you are. Even more unbelievable than trying to sell one building that you don't own, trying to sell an entire island on eBay.
And what were there any repercussions to come of that? Was the person who tried to sell New Zealand? Well, I mean, the man even come from New Zealand.
I believe, though I'm not certain, that it was a bit of a slap on the wrist and a bit of, we get that it was a joke, but come on, mate. But no, it got to 3,000 before they took it down. So I bet the high bidder there of 3,000, who thought he was getting an entire island and everything on it for $3,000 as well, that's not even £2,000. I bet he was pretty gutted when he found out that wasn't real.
Well, that certainly would be, yeah.
Yeah. Island for sale, £2,000. I'd snap it up.
Well, absolutely. Well, worth keeping an eye on in the future anyway.
Indeed.
To see if any other islands crop up. Well, that takes me to 3 out of 5. So Although I have lost again, I have clawed back a little bit of
You have, and
dignity.
and both weeks as well, you've got 3 out of 5, which is over half.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done well there.
So here we are in the moment of truth. Can you round off a perfect 10?
Who knows?
The very final fact. Here we are. So the Caribbean country St. Lucia is the filming location for many of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. Well, they've embraced the franchise so much that characters from the series, including Jack Sparrow, appear on the national currency.
Wow. Well, my first thought is that that's implausible, but then we do have special coins that have things like we had an Olympic 50p, for example, with a logo on in 2012. But I would argue hosting the Olympic Games is a bit more of a big deal than having a film series set there. I think... I think it's false. I'm almost tempted to go for true because it... No, I'm going to go for false. I'm not going to mess about here. I'm going to stick to what I think the answer really is. False.
Right. Have you got the perfect 10? You have. Yep.
That is incredible.
Can you believe it? I don't know what he's been doing over the last 12 months.
I've had your BlackBerry, and I've been looking at what your questions are, and I've been researching them while the songs are on. I haven't, just to be clear.
Oh, you're
that was
trying to
one fair and
embarrass me
square
now by saying that I've still got a BlackBerry several years after they went out of fashion.
It does, yeah. Look how out of date that technology
but it's
is.
an emergency phone, isn't it?
Right. Well,
I promise, genuinely. I'll not have the BlackBerry next radio.
I've got an iPhone 4S that's from early 2012. I'm not the height of fashion either. So final scores then are...
Well, deja vu, it's finished 5-3 again. I should just say on that last fact, that is false, so it's not really a fact. But it is based on what a different island does, the Pacific island of Niue, which does have Disney characters
Not
on.
Niue.
Yes, Niue. But it has nothing to do with the Pirates of the Caribbean or anything. They just decided to start putting the likes of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck on their coins.
As you would if you were in Niue. We're going to finish our show music-wise this morning with Symphony.